everyone? Welcome to the YouTube channel. Hopefully you came over here from the TikTok video. Not too sure if you did or if you just stumbled across this, but if you did come over here from the TikTok video, thank you for joining me. I am Rock Roberts, and this week's question was, what is your top 3 Final Fantasy games? Now mine, actually a little surprising. It's not what you would consider to be on everybody's top game list. Uh, in fact, I think one of these games probably won't even be on one of the top tens. Uh, and there's 16, and there's only 16 titles, and 2 of which are MMOs. And I am excluding the MMOs, because I absolutely adore 14. I remember cutting my teeth way back when on the Xbox 360 on Final Fantasy 11, but we're not going to be talking about the MMOs. So I'm going to start my list at my bottom, which is number 3, and I'm going to work my way up. So on the bottom of my top 3 list is actually one that's very surprising to most. Final Fantasy 13. Now hear me out. Hear me out. I know Final Fantasy 13 is not a good Final Fantasy game. I believe it's an excellent game. As far as good Final Fantasy game, I understand that criticism because this is kind of where it departed really from um, your a lot of the turn-based style that we had known way back when with Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, even before then, from the first ones. 12 kind of took off of that path really. You kind of had more options on if you wanted to engage in a battle or not. Um, 13 was very linear. They call it the hallway button smash um, simulator, really. Uh, and that is a justified criticism of the game. Yet, what makes it one of my top 3 games is the story. Story is so good, and I was able to resonate with almost every character. I'm a father. At the time I was married. I, uh, you know, I'm the oldest of all my siblings. So there was a little bit of everything. I was able to connect to each one of those characters in some sort of way or fashion. Um, Whereas some of the other Final Fantasy games, I really wasn't able to do that. Granted, some of the other Final Fantasy games had amazing stories with them, but 13, I think, had just an amazing overall story. You take away, and it actually added a lot of strategy mechanics that, granted, you didn't really see until towards the end of the game, but they were still there and they were amazing. Um, like I said, not this game probably isn't on a lot of people's top 10, and that's even if you take away the 2 MMOs. Um, Now, granted, I have yet to play Final Fantasy 1 through 6. I've played a little bit of 6, but I never beat it. I never beat 8, got towards the end, and I cannot stand 12 at all. But with all that being said, Final Fantasy 13 is my, out of my top 3 is my third one. Now, my second Final Fantasy game, which probably isn't going to be much of a surprise if you know me on Twitter, or if we've been friends and gamed for a while and you know my likes and dislikes. My second favorite Final Fantasy game is Final Fantasy X. Um, I hated the game at first. I couldn't stand that game at first. I remember playing it years and years and years ago and just was not able to get into it. I'd already played Final Fantasy 9. Don't think I beat 9 yet. I remember my first Final Fantasy game that I beat was 7, but I think I had just beat 9 at this time, I think. Either I just beat 9 or I was about to transition into playing 9 to beat 9. But it had a lot of really cool features and features that I had been wanting to see in a Final Fantasy game, where I could interchange the party members in the middle of the fight. Um, that I thought was an amazing thing that they were able to do. They kept the turn-based stuff. Um, Now they did make it if I remember correctly, they did make it to where only one person was able to pull out a summon, GF, whatever you want to call them, and that kind of took a little bit away from it. Whereas in previous games, everybody could. You just had to like pair them up with them, junction them, whatever it was at the time. So that was a little bit, different. My biggest thing was the story. The story got good at the end. It took a while to get good though. And that was something that baffled me was the story, and it was you go from this amazing intro and this amazing world that you're started in, and then you're thrust into a whole different uh, world, you know, kind of. And the story, and yes, this will contain spoilers. I mean, 13 is like a 20-year-old game now, or 10 is like a 20-year-old game now, I think. Um, you trying to get back, that's your main focus at the start of this game is once get taken to this new world, trying to get back to where you're from to get back home. You start off with that, but it takes a back seat so fast to the rest of the world building that it pulled me out of the game. Also, I'm looking at this and like I wasn't really that impressed at the start of it with the graphics. Looking back now, I should have been, but um, I had seen better games on the same system using the same hardware. But looking back now, and I have played it since then, and it is an amazing game, and the story is so good at the end, so good, and it hits so hard, like at some of the emotional strings, like the the stakes are so high across the board, and just knowing what that's going to happen at the very end, which basically that they allude to halfway through the game, and then at the end of the game, there's like a complete twist on it, and then you realize exactly what's going to happen, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So that's one of the reasons why it is my second favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. Now, my first top Final Fantasy game, very top Final Fantasy game of all time, isn't what you think it probably is going to be. Like I said, I've only played from 7 on up. I've played both MMOs, and I told you I'm taking the MMOs out of here. Uh, I love Final Fantasy 14. I still play it on a regular with my fiance. In fact, I have an entire series devoted and a YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Final Fantasy House Hunters, where me and my fiance we look at how's it in Final Fantasy, and we kind of give them our own little 5-star grade on it, on how they've decorated the outside, the inside, the theme, the overall. So Final Fantasy 14 holds a very special place in my heart. Final Fantasy 11, I remember cutting my teeth on Final Fantasy 11 on the Xbox 360 late at night. Had a USB keyboard to type so I can play and type at the same time. It was crazy. It was crazy. Um, but taking those out of everything that I've played, my top 5, and this has always been the case ever since I've beat this game. This has been the case. Final Fantasy 9 has always been my favorite. Uh, the stakes are extremely high, and you don't realize how high the stakes get until the end of the game. But even then, it's not stakes like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die at the end, regardless of what, kind of like how Final Fantasy 10 was. It didn't have those type of across the board stakes. This is just a main, hey, if we don't do this and if we don't accomplish this, our world is over. It's done. Um, but the storytelling is amazing. Like it is from the moment that you start and to the end is just one huge arch that takes the cake in storytelling, in my opinion. They don't make you sit back and, like, yes, they give you time to breathe, let you take everything in, but it's not like I said in Final Fantasy X, where the story takes back the main story. What I felt like should have been the main story takes a back seat to the world building. Like it interlocks, like it works together. Like we're gonna build the world while telling you this story, introducing you to the characters, building up these characters to make you love them. Like wow, Vivi is my favorite Final Fantasy character of all time. There is never a doubt of that. Like in fact, I have a trucker hat with Vivi on it, and his story is such a sad story. Like it's such a good telling of a character, and the story you just it just digs into you, and then the ending of it is just so gut wrenching, and you're like, oh my god, I can't. It's like a happy ending, but not a happy ending. It's like it's an amazing. Just Vivi's character arc is just amazing through the entire game, and some of the other aspects from where the uh, the princess changes. She cuts off her hair. She changes her name and her identity on what she is. She goes to Dagger. That was really cool. Um, the chef. Oh my god, the chef is so funny, and you take them along with you. It was an amazing ride from start to finish, all the way through. It Even the chocobo hunts was as frustrating at times that mini game could be, and even the card game was. And I will dig on them like this. I do not believe that you should make a mini game a requirement to progress in the story. That is a take. That is a something that I would say across all games, because not everyone's gonna enjoy the mini games. Um, I enjoyed the card game, but I hear plenty of people hate on the card game, and that's fine. Some people just want to play for the story, but at a certain part in the game, you have to be somewhat decent at the card game, or at least know what's going on and know the mechanics of the card game in order to progress the story. That was not a good thing, in my opinion. I don't agree with that. When I was playing Horizon Forbidden West, I thought they were going to do that with some sort of chess type game that they board game that they had going on. Luckily, that wasn't the case. But I think forcing your players to do a mini game that they might or might not like to progress the story, especially way after you're introduced to this said card game or mini game, I think it was a bad idea. I think it wasn't a good idea at all, and I feel like it should have been taken out. But that to the side, and this is one of those games that, in my opinion, it starts out simple. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm out catching bugs. Now I'm defeating a god. It's not one of those type of stories, but it is like you can understand how it progressed to that ending. You can see how all this ramped up, how it all just became something bigger than what it started off to be. It wasn't just we're going to just throw you into it. It wasn't this like, hey, I'm this character that has no need to be here. Like it easily brought all the characters together. It easily told the story with each character. It easily explained each character's stakes, and going forward as with the stakes of the world as well. And that's the reason why it's my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. So let me know what yours is over on the TikTok page if you haven't already, your top 3 down in the comments of that. Also, or you can leave me the comments down here. I am going to be posting new videos like this once a week, every Saturday afternoon, right here on this channel, youtube.com/RockRoberts. Hopefully you have a great and wonderful day, and I will see you later. Peace.